2018 meeting with the Columbus Municipal School Board. We do have a quorum present, and on the line with us at this time is Trustee Frederick Sparks. In starting today's meeting, oh yes, Mr. Sparks, can you hear?
Yes, I'm with you.
Okay, excellent. All right, so we will go to the next item on our agenda, which is invocation, and I'll offer it tonight. So if you would, please bow with me. Our Father, we thank you so much for this bountiful life that you continue to provide for us, Lord. We just ask you continue to walk with us and help us gain knowledge and understanding through your word. Lord, we just ask you continue to help the school board and the participants within this school district to continue to be the best that we can be in glorifying you, as well as being the best that we can be for this community, Lord. We just ask you continue to walk with us every day, and we give praise to you. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Please rise with me. Attention, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome and thank everyone for being here this evening. As we move into our agenda, board first, we have item number 3 on tonight's agenda, which is the adoption of the agenda. I need a motion for approval.
So moved.
Has been motioned by Dr. Verdell. Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been seconded by Dr. Shoemake. Any discussion? Being no discussion, all in favor, please signify with your right hand. Mr. Sparks, how do you vote?
Yay.
Yay. It is unanimous. Next, we go to item number 4, superintendent recommendations. We have consideration to request release from employment contract 2 different individuals. And so at this time, I ask Mr. Shannon if you'd like to comment on the item 4A.
Yes, sir, Mr. President. We'll turn this section over to Mr. Hunley, our Personnel Director.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Mr. President, members of the board, Dr. Hickman in his absence. We have 2 recommendations for release from contract. One is for Mr. Hunter Fields, and with his situation, he is requesting a release for relocation, and we do have a suitable replacement that has been identified.
Okay, and Mr. Shannon, what is the recommendation?
The recommendation is that we do release Mr. Fields.
Okay. So board, the recommendation to this board is that we do release Mr. Fields from the contract. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
That's been motioned by Dr. Verdell. I'll make the second. Any discussion? Being no discussion, all in favor, please signify for yea vote. Yea?
Yay.
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 It is unanimous. Next, we go to the release from contract, Shelby Jameson. Mr. Shannon?
Mr. Hunley?
All right, with this one, same as Mr. Fields, Ms. Jameson is requesting a release from her contract due to relocation, and a suitable replacement has been identified for her position as well.
Okay, Mr. Shannon, what's the recommendation to the board?
Mr. President, we do recommend that Mrs. Jameson be released from her contract.
Okay. Board, we've had this presented to us. I need a motion for approval to release from contract.
So moved.
Has been motioned by Dr. Verdell. Do I have a second?
Second.
Has been seconded by Dr. Shoemake. Any discussion? Being no discussion.
Yes, I have a question,
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
President. Now, I want to make sure I'm understanding. What's the name of the individual again?
It's Shelby Jameson.
Jameson. Okay. All right.
Yes, sir. Any other comments or discussion? Being none, all in favor of supporting the release as recommended to the board, please signify for yea vote. Yea?
Yay.
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 It is unanimous. Next, we go to consideration to approve staff personnel items. We have several listed here for us to consider tonight. Mr. Shannon?
Yes, Mr. President, members of the board, you see the staff members that have been recommended for employment or change of assignment, and I do believe we have 1 resignation on that agenda. All of those have been vetted with the business office to make sure that those positions are in the budget, so we do recommend the personnel items that you see before you.
Okay, board. It has been presented to us as staff personnel for recommendation. I need a motion for approval.
So moved.
It's been motioned by Dr. Verdell. Do I have a second? I'll make the second. Any discussion? Being no discussion, all in favor, please signify by yea vote. Yea.
Yay.
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 It is unanimous. Next, we go to our next item, which is closed determination for executive session. I need a motion for approval.
So moved.
Has been motioned by Dr. Verdell. All in favor, please signify by yea vote. Yea.
Yay.
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 It is unanimous. We will be out shortly to make the announcement of the items that will be taken up in executive session. Thank you. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. Thank everyone for being here. We are now back in regular session. In executive session, we had several items that we took up. To go into executive session, Dr. Verdell made the motion. Mr. Sparks made the second. It was a 4-0 vote to go into executive session. Then once we got into executive session, we had a release from contract. Dr. Verdell made the motion. I made the second. It was a 4-0 vote. I'm sorry, excuse me. A student matter. Dr. Verdell made the motion. I made the second. It was a 4-0 vote. Then we had number 2, which was release from contract request. Dr. Verdell made the motion. Mr. Sparks made the second for release, and it was a 4-0 vote. Then on the third, personnel, Dr. Shoemake made the motion. Mr. Sparks made the second not to release, and it was a 3-1 vote. Then we had a release from contract request. Dr. Verdell made the motion. Mr. Sparks made the second, and it was a 4-0 vote to release. Then we had two different discussion for job performance of staff district employee. No action we're taking on those. Then we had our last job discussion performance. There was one action to formally non-renew the superintendent, Dr. Hickman, and to send him notification of such decision. I made the motion. Mr. Sparks made the second, and it was a 3-1 vote on that to formally non-renew Dr. Hickman. Then we had our executive session minutes. Dr. Verdell made the motion. Dr. Shoemake made the second, and it was a 4-0 vote. And now we're back in regular session. Dr. Verdell made the motion. I made the second, and it was a 4-0 vote. Board, do we need a 5-minute recess? Okay, so I need a motion for recess.
So moved.
It's been motioned by Mr. Sparks. I'll make the second. Any discussion? Being no discussion, all in favor, please signify with your right hand. We recess for 5 minutes. We ready, Ms. Verdell? All right, everybody? All right, so I need a motion to return back to regular session.
So moved.
Second.
Has been motioned by Mr. Sparks, seconded by Dr. Verdell. Any discussion? Being none, all in favor, please signify with your right hand. It is unanimous. Next, we go to our next item on tonight's agenda, which are superintendent CMSD, Special Education Department, and Services Update. Board, as far as the update and some of the other things, we're going to put that off to a later date as far as any type of presentation and discussion of the department, but we do have 2 items that we'll be taking up tonight.
Okay.
So if that's okay with the board, then we'll do that at a later date. But first we have item number 8A, which is release from employment contract. Ms. Donna Jones, Mr. Shannon, what is the recommendation?
Yes, sir. Mr. President, other members of the board, we do recommend that Mrs. Jones be released from her contract because of relocation and a suitable replacement has been found.
Okay. So board, in light of the recommendation of this board to release Ms. Donna Jones from her contract, I need a motion for approval.
So moved.
It's been motioned by Dr. Verdell. I'll make the second. Any discussion? Being no discussion, all in favor, please signify with your right hand. It is unanimous. Next, we go to the next item, which is 8B, Staff Personnel Recommendation. Dr. Cheryl Smith, as the new Director of Special Education. Mr. Shannon, what is the recommendation?
We do recommend and are very happy to support Dr. Cheryl Smith to step in and be our Director of Special Education.
Okay, board has been recommended to us. Dr. Cheryl Smith be the Director of Special Education for the district. I need a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Has been motioned by Mr. Sparks, been seconded by Dr. Verdell. Any discussion? Being no discussion, all in favor, please signify with your right hand. It is unanimous. Congratulations, Dr. Smith. And next we go to item number 9, which is the school board minutes and information. Board, we have our minutes for December the 6th and December the 11th, so if we could take them both together, I need a motion for approval of the minutes.
So moved.
Has been motioned by Dr. Verdell. Do I have a second?
Second.
Has been seconded by Mr. Sparks. Any discussion? Being no discussion, all in okay, all in favor, please signify with your right hand. It is unanimous. Next is item 9B, trustee travel and discussion. I don't believe we've had any travel this past session, so there's nothing to talk about tonight at that part. Next is item 9C, which is discussion of the school improvement meeting with Mississippi Department of Education in Jackson, Mississippi. I'll just give you a brief kind of synopsis of it, but I thought that the meetings were productive and went well. We can get into more of the details at a later date when we can have all the parties here to kind of talk through it. But the meeting with MDE went well. There at each of the meetings, you had myself and Dr. Hickman. You also had the specific school's principal, and then you had a parent advocate, and then you also had a teacher from that school. And that was the structure of the meetings for both, for Cook, for Franklin, and for the middle school. The third thing about it was that the first 2 meetings were kind of the same. I think everyone's had a chance to review the plans that were submitted to MDE for how we're going to work to improve and get them from an F to a D to a C and on up the grade scale. And so they were very helpful in going through and analyzing the submitted information and also offering details. Now, for Ms. Williams as well as for Mr. Brandon, they will be coming back probably in February or so as they continue to go through the response from MDE with respect to the meetings to provide to this board an action plan, just as we took up for the middle school last year, that we'll have to go through and analyze, and then, of course, from there, be able to approve that action plan. And then every month, just as Ms. Smith has been doing and will continue to do, we'll come before the board and talk through those steps monthly as to how to be able to, or what actions are being taken to ensure that as we go through this through the rest of this school year, that there will be a marked improvement at those different locations. And so rather than getting into all the other parts of those discussions, I think that'd be better if we had Dr. Hickman and others with us to go through it. But are any questions?
Yeah, I just have one question. So once the presentations were made, did MDE say that the plan looked to be sufficient, that the plan was good? Because I know they gave that feedback last year on the spot. With Ms. Smith for the middle school.
Right. I think the way that they took it wasn't necessarily as direct as that, but they certainly accepted what had been sent, and they also felt that it would cover the adequate information that was presented.
Okay.
But also the way that the first 2 meetings for Franklin and for Cook went were that they took that information. We went. The principal presented through a spread through the presentation, and then they took that time at the end to ask questions and from not just that information but others, but then also give some guidance. And then they told each one and us at the meeting that there would be a report compiled and then submitted back to the school district for Dr. Hickman and everyone as well as them to be able to review through and kind of correlate the information that was sent with kind of suggestions to match up to improve those sites. Now, the third meeting with the middle school is a little bit different because this would be the second year that they've had to go through this process, and so it was a little bit different format. There were 3 individuals that were there from the first meeting through the last meeting. Dr. Benton was in the very first meeting. In the second meeting, there was another, and I forget, her name escapes me now. But in the final meeting, we went through a different format to where they brought everyone in, and we didn't have the presentation. We went straight into questions. And when we went through all the questions, we went back out of the meeting, and they took about 15 minutes or so of discussion amongst themselves, and then brought us back in and on the spot talked to, Ms. Smith and all of us as to what they see going right back the next day or when school came back into session, what they could be able to do from that point forward until the report arrived to kind of put those pieces together. And I think that's something that, Ms. Smith should be here along with Ms. Williams and Mr. Brandon to kind of go through their plans and how they're going to do it. And then, of course, all the parties be able to shed a little bit more light than that. But that was kind of the format, the structure, the discussions. Of course, it got into greater detail, and of course, there was a chance for the parent that was there, and the teacher to engage and talk with the MDE department about how that they felt things were going and what we're going through, whether it be the PLCs, whether it be other types of actions that are being initiated or ongoing actions in those schools, and how it was helping them on the classroom level all the way through how the parents' perception of interaction and some of the different programs that are going. I think there's I don't want to call it the wrong name, at the middle school, the two parents that were there for the middle school, that there's a program going on there, M16, not M16, P16, that's going to help that, working with teachers and parents and students and everything. So, so it was a really good dialogue, and I think everybody that was there enjoyed the discussion. It wasn't something where you've been bad or anything.
Right.
They didn't take that approach. It was
Right.
more of a uplifting and help, just the way that they do it now.
Right. Thank you.
So, any other questions about it? And like I said, I'll put it back on the agenda to bring back up at our next meeting so that we can have a little bit more coverage of it. So that moves us to our next item of the consent agenda. We have our we have our policies listed there as A1, A, B, and C. Then we have our dates to remember, which are the academic dates. We have our athletic schedule dates. Our board meeting, the next meeting is coming up. Our scheduled meeting is January the 27th is our board retreat here at Brandon at 8:30 a.m. Where we have to do our annual review of our self-assessment, as well as the board attorney and the superintendent evaluation. Then we have our next dates of February the 7th and February the 12th, which is our review meeting, and then our regular meeting. And we have another meeting scheduled for February the 28th, and I thank Ms. Woodward for pointing this out to me. The reason it's February the 28th is because we have our upcoming meeting in March that would be right butting up against spring break. And so it would be up to the board. We can decide now, or we can decide later whether we want to have the review meeting in February the 28th, or if we want to do as we've done this month and actually just have our regular scheduled meeting. So is that something we want to decide now, or come back in February and do it?
I mean, I can make the motion to just forego the review meeting
Okay.
and have the regular meeting.
So the review meeting on February the 28th we'll forego and just have our regular scheduled Monday meeting in March. Okay, so that is the motion. I'll make the second for that. Any additional discussion? Okay, all in favor of the motion to not have our February the 28th review meeting, all signify with your right hand. It is unanimous. Okay, so then we come down to our, and so we're just going to strike that off, even though that's not for the consent agenda. That was just for that particular item.
Okay.
Then we have 4, which is consideration to approve the high school baseball schedule. Then we have the revised fast pitch soccer schedule, and then the international advantage rebate cards.
Okay.
So for all the items on the consent agenda for approval, I need a motion for approval.
So moved.
That's been motioned by Dr. Burdell. Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been seconded by Mr. Sparks. Any discussion? Being no discussion, all in favor, please signify with your right hand. It is unanimous. Next, we go to open forum. We did not have anyone sign up for open forum tonight. That is item 11. Item 12 is Office of Business Management. We have our financial reports, fund balance report, cash balance budget status report, monthly revenue budget report, monthly expenditure budget report, and certification and summary of reconciled bank statements. Board, I need a motion for approval of our financial statements.
So moved.
Has been motioned by Mr. Sparks. I'll make the second. Any discussion? Being no discussion, all in favor, please signify with your right hand. It is unanimous. Next, we go to our item 5, which is the monthly ad valorem tax collection analysis report. Board, is there any questions about the report? Being none, we go to our athletic events report. Are there any questions about the athletic events report? Then we go to our quarterly budget amendments, which is item 7. We have district maintenance budget amendment for the quarter ending 9/30, and then also one for 12/31 of 17. And those are just FYs. Just making sure there. Okay. So any questions about those? None? Okay. Then we go to 8, which is consideration to approve fixed asset disposals. I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Has been motioned by Mr. Sparks, has been seconded by Dr. Verdell. Any discussion? Being no discussion, all in favor, please signify with your right hand. It is unanimous. Now we go to item 9, which is consideration to cancel the current Mill Creek of Pontotoc agreement. And if you'll notice, there's 9, 10, and 11. One is the consideration to cancel the current contract. Then is to approve the contract as sole source provider. And then we have consideration to approve revised Mill Creek contract. And Mr. Dunn, do we need to take those separately, or can we take them all as one?
You can take them all as one if you wish.
Board, is that okay with you to take them all as one? Sure. Okay. So we'll take 9, 10, and 11 all as one of Mill Creek. So I need a motion for approval.
So moved.
Has been motioned by Dr. Verdell. Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been seconded by Dr. Shoemake. Any discussion?
Question.
Yes.
Can someone just help us understand the sole source justification, please? Thank you.
I think Mr. Dunn researched it. I asked the similar.
Actually, Ms. Holmes provided
Okay.
this.
Okay.
Basically, it was determined that under federal law, we needed to, open this up for bids, right? Or something. Explain to us.
Mr. President, in Dr. Hickman's absence and member of the Board of Trustees, what this item does is align the contract with the purchasing thresholds. The sole source was derived because of the fact that Mill Creek is the only provider in this area for the geographical convenience of getting our students within a reasonable distance to the service provider. The Mill Creek contract, the Mill Creek, gosh, I'm losing my train of thought here. The Mill Creek provider is the only one in this area that will service our students and provide those things that they need to service them for the services that they provide. There are other school districts in our area, like Noxubee County, who also sends their students to Mill Creek and at Pontotoc. So they're the only provider in this area, in this geographical region.
And it had to do with
provides
federal
services.
law. Wasn't it under an audit that this was?
The contract that was presented did not align with the purchasing thresholds.
Okay.
That was presented back in July, I believe. This one does put us in, align with the purchasing thresholds.
Which is federal law, I believe.
Correct.
Okay. It's not state law, it's federal law. So this one, basically, we're getting rid of the old contract, a new one that complies with
Correct.
federal law.
Correct.
That was my only question. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify with your right hand. It is unanimous. Next, we go to consideration to approve FY19 budget calendar. I need a motion for approval.
So moved.
It's been motioned by Dr. Verdell. I'll make the second. Discussion. One thing I just have is I know I read through it and different things, but as we go through, are we looking to have to, I guess my question is, are we looking that this is a static way of doing it, or is there going to be some changes because of some different
There could potentially be some changes based on the information that is released from MDE.
Okay.
For example, the final allocation of MAP. There are some potential legislative changes that are coming that could affect our budget in the new year, especially regarding PERS contribution changing. So there can be some changes to the budget topics as we proceed with getting information from MDE.
And also the reason is because I know as we went through this past school year and we completed the refunding of our bonds, that some of the dates of where they can start refunding them come up in 2018. And so that, I assume, will be part of some of that information that we go through. Okay. All right, Board, is there any other questions regarding the proposed budget calendar? All in favor of the motion, please signify with your right hand. It is unanimous. Next, we go to 13, which is the consideration to approve $5,000 transfer from Fund 1120 to the 7321 student clubs for Beta Club. I know we've had discussion about this, several different times. I need a motion for approval.
So moved.
It's been motioned by Mr. Sparks. Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been seconded by Dr. Verdell. Any discussion? Being no discussion, all in favor, please signify with your right hand. It is unanimous. Next, we go to consideration to approve CHS Beta Club overnight field trip to Biloxi, February the 18th through the 20th, 2017.
18.
Okay. I just want to make sure we get it right. It's 18. Okay. We're not going to pay for another one in February. All right. All right. So, so we have that proposed to us. Board, have you had a chance to look through the details, because this will be all fundraising. This is not the district paying for it. Okay.
So that's going to be the motion, right?
So that's the motion, right?
Okay, that's all right.
Okay.
I'm just
All
making
right.
sure.
So we have a motion by me, a second by Dr. Verdell.
I'll
Any
second.
discussion? No discussion. All in favor, please signify with your right hand. It is unanimous. Next, we go to the claims docket. Tonight, Board, we have, I need a motion for approval of paying the bills.
So moved.
Has been motioned by Dr. Verdell. Do I have a second?
Second.
Has been seconded by Dr. Shoemake. Two questions that I have, I'd emailed Dr. Hickman about, I assume he sent to you, was one for, okay, there's two items on there. One is for consulting fees that were paid to a LaShondra White. One was paid in November for consulting fees. I think it was volleyball, and then one was for girls basketball, each $1,100. And so I know we have our supplements, and then we also have consulting, but consultants usually come with a contract. And so do we have a contract that was signed for it? And could you kind of explain a little bit about those charges and fees?
Mr. Spears, members of the Board of Trustees, Ms. LaShondra White was paid what we would call a consulting or contracted fee. To my understanding, I'm not sure about the contract itself, but I can speak to the fact that it was an accounts payable charge. It was not something paid through payroll, so it was a fee for services that she provided for that sports.
Okay. So, Mr.
So,
Dunn.
Mr. Dunn, in that case, if there's a purchase order for the service, does that fall under that realm, or does this require some standalone contract?
So there was a PO issued for this.
Yes, sir.
Okay. If a PO was issued, then, you can pay that PO.
Okay. All right. All right, so that answers that question. And the second thing is that I noticed that there's a charge through there, and what stuck out to me is it was two separate charges on the same docket for Lotus Johnson. Is that the last name? Lotus. One's for $2,300, one's for $3,000. And so I guess my question is, why is there two entries instead of just one? I mean, if you're paying for, because I know we have a contract for specific services rendered to the district. So I'm just trying to understand as to why under the docket it's listed two separate times.
It would be, Mr. Spears, but I double checked, but usually this happens when there's two separate invoices.
That's what I was.
Right.
We did receive an invoice for the services of November that we did not receive in time for the December docket. So it's the November and December services, if my memory serves me correctly, but I can confirm that
Okay.
and advise you.
And Ms. Holmes, that has been confirmed, yes.
Okay, so that has been confirmed? Okay. And then, I guess, Mr. Dunn, can I ask, as far as the personnel, we've got we'll come back to, yeah. Okay. So, yeah, all right. So those answer my question. Any other questions about the docket? Being none, all in favor, please signify with your right hand. It is unanimous. Next, we go to Office of Superintendent, School Operations Superintendent, Travel Review and Travel Report. We don't have that at this time. Next, we go to item 13B, which is consideration of bid number 656, bus surplus sale. And then, of course, right under that is a related one is the consideration to approve disposal/sale of old school buses to scrapyard. And if I remember looking at the bid, and I'm going to turn it over to you, Mr. Shannon, but one, to sell them outright under B would be $2,000 or so, and to scrap them, it'd be $9,000. So, Mr. Shannon, would you like to expound on that?
Yes, sir, Mr. President, members of the board. We did go through the bidding process for bid number 656. We did receive one vendor to submit a total bid price of $2,251. We are recommending that we reject that bid due to the fact that we could sell those ourselves and make over $9,000. But because we do not have a five-member board here tonight, we will not be able to make that recommendation for C. I've talked to Mr. Hemphill and Mr. Dunn. We do have to make that recommendation, and it be approved 5-0 for us to sell those buses under the law under item C. So we would like to go ahead and reject bid number 656 and remove item C and bring that back up again next month if applicable.
Okay. Well, we can just leave it as unfinished business to our next meeting. So, that would be fine. Okay, so.
But you want action on rejecting
Yes.
the bid.
So B, 13B is consideration of bid 656 surplus. The recommendation of this board is that we reject the bid. So, board, I need a motion for accepting that recommendation.
So moved.
That's been motioned by Dr. Shoemake. I'll make the second. Any discussion? Being no discussion, all in favor, please signify with your right hand. It is unanimous. Then we'll go to 13C, and we'll skip over that and go to 13D, which is our monthly goal updates. We have our school safety report, school discipline for the different locations, as well as the district report. Board, do we have any questions regarding any of the site or the district and monthly district report, discipline report? None. Next, we go to student attendance report. Board, do you have any questions regarding the student attendance report? Anyone? None. Next, we go to the dropout report. Are there any questions about the dropout report? 4 is the teacher attendance report. None. And then let's see, workers' compensation report, safety report. Any questions regarding it? And then we have 6, which is review of 16 section regulations and laws. Mr. Dunn?
I'll be happy to go over it again. I think we've talked about this several times, certainly in the last year. Columbus is just different from practically anywhere else in the state of Mississippi. The mile by 1 mile by 1 mile of 16 section land falls right slap dab downtown. And except for the property that you manage that's never been under a lease, such as Magnolia Bowl, Union Academy, those buildings, all the other lands that were leased in 19 the last time. The previous time, it would have been back in 1820 or whatever it was, 100 years before. The federal court has ruled that those leases are the same as their 99-year lease is renewable forever, and it's the same as fee simple title as long as they continue to pay the leases. The leases that were defaulted because of non-payment of taxes, if it's done 3 years in a row, then it's out from under that, and there are a few pieces of property like that. But that's basically in a nutshell, and I'll answer any questions if you'd like to ask any.
Does anyone have any questions?
No, I mean, no new questions, because like Mr. Dunn said,
Right.
we've had this discussion over the last three years or so, so I don't think anything has changed.
That's right. All right, thank you very much, Mr. Dunn. Next, we go to the draft of the 2018-2019 CMSD academic calendar. We have Draft A, which is 2018-19, and then Draft B. Mr. Shannon, would you like to comment about them?
Yes, sir, Mr. President, members of the board. It is that time of year that we start planning for 2018-19. A very important part of that is getting our calendars ready in time enough for families to make plans for summer vacations and for the academic year. Both calendars represent teachers returning on August the 1st with 3 days of professional development time that we could spend in our buildings and working with principals and getting teachers ready for the start of school, which on both calendars will be August the 6th. We go through that first semester, and the major difference in the calendars between A and B, A has a fall break with an October 5th and 8th vacation time that some teachers have requested, and B has a more of a spring break that's outside of March, with Good Friday and Good Monday being taken off after the spring break. Teachers will have a chance to have input on these calendars this month. Also, they'll be uploaded to our website where parents can provide input, and we hope to bring a final recommendation back to the board next month. Of course, we will align our thoughts with our neighboring districts and with our colleges in the area.
All right. Thank you very much. Board, is there any other questions regarding the calendars? Thank you. Next, we go to item number 14, which is discussion of search firm proposals. And I asked that we could, I want to make sure, has everyone received the submitted proposals from the different search firms? Okay. So continue to go through that information. If we could, we'll take that up at our next meeting, because I'm going to ask if we could have a motion to recess this meeting until Wednesday at 11:30 here at Brandon.
This Wednesday?
This Wednesday.
So is the purpose of the meeting Wednesday to go to vote on a one of the proposals?
Well, I mean, it's to discuss the proposals, and if there's a company that we want to use, then yes.
If there's a motion tonight, can we entertain a motion tonight? Because I would just move that we go with the Mississippi School Boards Association, if we could entertain that tonight. I'm not available for Wednesday. I already have an out-of-town trip scheduled.
Okay.
But if the consensus of the board can meet, that's fine.
I mean, do y'all?
There's a motion on the floor.
Right, there's a motion on the floor to accept MSBA's proposal. Do I have a second for the motion? Do I have a second?
So the only reason I'm recommending MSBA is because everything else that we do from a school board standpoint, in terms of our evaluations, in terms of our training that the state requires us to take through MSBA, we can't take training from any other organization other than the Mississippi School Boards Association. I think they've had good success with placing superintendents within the state of Mississippi. They have a program where they groom and grow candidates for superintendents in the state. So that is the basis of my recommendation.
Sure. And I don't have any issue with Mississippi School Board Association at all. I just feel like that I want to be able to go through and finish. I mean, I've read through them a couple of different times now, but I'd like to be able to just have discussion about them as well. So, I mean, if we need to recess the meeting till next, I mean, what would be a second option of when you could possibly meet?
Well, my motion is still on the table.
Okay, so do I have a second? Do I have a second? Third and final call, do I have a second? The motion fails for lack of a second. And that brings back to trying to find a date for recessing the meeting. Would it be possible to meet, trying to look at the dates here, on Wednesday the 17th at the same time? I know we normally have our review sessions on Wednesdays, why I said Wednesdays. Or everybody else? Wednesday the 17th? Okay. So I know you mentioned you're going to be out of town, you're leaving Wednesday, so you won't be back. So could we look at Wednesday the 17th at, say, 11:30, like we normally meet? I mean, is that acceptable? I mean,
Yeah.
okay. So item 15 on tonight's agenda is the motion to recess the meeting. And so I ask that we recess, I make the motion that we recess the meeting to 11:30 a.m. 2018 on January the 17th, Wednesday, January 17th, here at Brandon. So do I have a second?
Second.
It's been seconded by Mr. Sparks. Any discussion? Being no discussion, all in favor, please signify with your right hand. It is adjourned. It is. It's the last item on the agenda, and it was unanimous. And we are recessed until that time and day.